everybody, today I'm going to be going over a sugar cookie recipe with you. This is a great recipe for decorating cookies. This recipe is actually one that a student of mine brought in and was her aunt's recipe, and she brought it to me and was like, Miss Birnbaum, I really want to make this. Can we try to use it for class? If you're out there listening, thank you. This is what the end product ended up looking like for me based on the cookie cutters that I used. I also go over how to make a really simple icing, which is what you see on a few of these here and what's in this bowl. So if you are interested in learning this, please continue watching. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I'm going to go over the ingredients, and then after I've gone through that and told you what you need to gather, we'll start on the instructions, directions, and I will walk you through step by step on how to make this. You're going to need 1 cup of softened butter, which is 2 sticks. You'll need a cup of sugar, 3 cups of flour, 1 large egg, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Alright, so first thing you need to do is you need to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. That way, as soon as you're ready with the cookies, you can put them in the oven. You're going to need some sort of stand mixer or a bowl and a mixer. I think this is easiest. And we are going to be adding ingredients to this. So we're going to start by adding the 1 cup of softened butter and 1 cup of sugar. I have my sugar in this container. Then make sure you're leveling it off. I'm using the flat edge of this knife because I know I'm going to need it anyway. And then we're going to mix this together. My stand mixer has a lock on the side, and then I just keep my hand here. I'm going to turn it up about medium. It'd probably help if I plugged it in first. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to add the egg to this. If you're not very confident about your ability to crack an egg, then don't crack it straight into the bowl. Crack it into a different small bowl, and then you can add it into this. I'm pretty confident I'm not going to end up messing this up. I just wash my hands because that's what you should do as soon as you crack an egg, and we're going to mix this again. Next, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract into this. I'm going to measure over the bowl just in case. 1, 2. We're going to mix it again. Now we're going to let this sit for a second, and we're going to get a separate bowl out to mix our 3 cups of flour and our baking powder. So you just need a bowl that's large enough that's going to hold the 3 cups of flour and the baking powder that's going into it. So my flour is in this container. We're going to measure 3 cups. And then we need our 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Now we're just going to mix this with fork. So what we're going to do is we're now going to, as we're mixing, gradually add this. Put a little bit in to start before mixing. We'll let that mix in and then we'll continue. I'm going to take a spatula, just scrape some of this out around the top of the bowl, make sure all of that gets in. Let it mix one more time. Once it's completely combined, it is going to be put onto a floured surface. So I'm just going to clean this off really quickly here. I'm really big on doing my best not to waste anything, so I'm really trying to scrape this off as much as I can. So it also makes it easier to clean. I'm going to take my flour. There isn't really a specific amount for this, but what you're going to do is you're going to take flour and put it on a clean surface. So I've been working on this surface, but I'm only ever setting things on here that are clean. I'm going to be putting some flour here so that the cookie dough can go on that. I'm going to go ahead and do 1/3 cup. You want it kind of like this, because what you're trying to do is you're going to set the cookie dough on here and you don't want it to get stuck to your counter. So this is what it should look like. Okay, again, wanting to make sure that you get that as clean as possible. Pull the cookie dough off of this, and this is going in the sink. You need a rolling pin. I generally try to smash it down with my hands first, and it's a good idea to have a little bit of flour on your rolling pin. And you don't want it to stick to this either. So sprinkle a little bit on top even, since it's not sticking well to my rolling pin. And then just start rolling. And if you see it do this, then that's a good indication that you need more flour on top. Hi, Timber. He thinks he wants to make cookies too. He just wishes it was for him, right? You just wish it was for you? He's okay. He likes trying to participate. He's very cute. Yeah? You gonna say hi to everyone? You gotta be a little louder. I bet they heard that one. Yeah. Okay, this part and this part are clearly not flat enough. However, this is. Hi, buddy. And so I'm going to use a cookie cutter on this part, and then I'll smash the other parts together to re-roll it, because that has to happen anyway. I'm going to get parchment paper ready so that it can go straight onto parchment paper as soon as I cut them out, because they're going to need somewhere to go, and I'd rather not move them more than once. I know. Yes. It does seem that way. You're funny, baby. Alright, so I have my cookie cutters. Now, it is pretty important that the cookies that you're putting in the oven at the same time are the same size, or very close to the same size, just because otherwise they won't bake at the same time, like they won't be done at the same time. So I have a cat, because I love cats, and Timber is trying desperately to be getting tons of attention. We're going to do 4 cats, because that's how many cats I've had. So we have those. And then I'm just going to remove what's around them to get to them. Try not to ruin the design. Yeah! The other thing you can do if you're worried about ruining the design, because I almost did with this one, is you can take a spatula. And again, I would suggest having a little bit of flour on it so that it doesn't stick. What you can do is you can take a spatula and try to scoop it up that way, which actually did seem to work a little bit better. I would still suggest moving all of the cookie dough around it first, getting it out of the way as much as possible. Okay, I have my 4 cats done. Now I'm going to make some pumpkins, because I currently have a pumpkin plant growing that I'm super excited about. I planted pumpkin seeds from a pumpkin I carved last year and didn't do anything, just kind of hoped for the best. And I have 3 pumpkins right now that are growing. There's more like super baby ones, but there are 3 that I'm pretty confident about. So I'm going to do 3 pumpkins. I'm going to do some hearts for love. Okay, I have cookies that totally fill a cookie sheet. Like, I don't have room for any other cookies on here. So even though I have more dough, it's not going on this one. So this is gonna go in the oven now. It goes in the oven for 6 to 8 minutes, depending on the size. So I'm gonna start with 6 and then I'll check them. Keep in mind that if you're trying to decorate these and have like a certain number of each cookie, then you want to make more than the amount that you need, just to make sure that if something happens to one of them, doesn't expand correctly, doesn't really look right, whatever, that you have a backup. Don't just go with the exact number you need. It's very risky to do that. So I'm going to set this in the oven, and then I'm going to continue with this because I want to make sure I use all of this. Even if these are the only cookies that I care a whole lot about decorating, I want to make sure that I make all of the cookies. You may have noticed that some of these were on my other piece of parchment paper. However, these cookies are a lot larger than those cookies, and they can't go in at the same time. So I move them to here, and then this is going to go in now. Since we're so close to the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cookie dough and I'm simply going to press it into the mold. I'm going to use a different heart this time. That way I make sure that I'm using it all, but it still comes out in a good shape. Again, I'm really big on not wasting anything. If you can use it, you should use it. And that's so pretty. Though I think I'm partial to that cat laying down one. I think that's maybe my favorite. While they're in the oven, I'm going to start cleaning up my mess. Alright, well, the last batch of cookies is in the oven. I'm going to show you how to make an icing. It's very simple. It is with powdered sugar and water or milk. That's the only things that have to go in it. We will need 1 cup of powdered sugar. And then I'm going to choose to use water, but you could use milk. And it needs 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of water. And then I'll bring it right back and show it to you. Okay, might be a little hard to see, but it's there. And then what you gotta do is you gotta mix it up. Okay, and if you wanted to put icing on it, you could do it a couple different ways. So this is done. Like, you could add food coloring to it, but I'm not going to. What you can do is you can take your cookie, set it in, and it could be like this. So white pumpkin. I actually have a white pumpkin that has lasted for a very long time. I'm making this video in the end of August, and I've had it since last October. It's doing great, and that's no joke. You could do something like this, where you put a little bit. You could try to do a design, and try to do a cat face on here. This might not work at all, but might as well attempt it, right? Alright, so the bottom line is, there's a lot of different things you can do with this. I would suggest dyeing it a certain color if you try and make them, like, actually really cute of whatever it is that you're trying to make. You will have to let this sit for a good while if you want it to actually dry in order to do anything else on top of it. So if you're looking to, like, put icing on and then decorate on top of it, probably would be super cute. You're going to need to give this time to fully dry before you're able to do that. So just so you have a very solid understanding of the amount of cookies it made, this is what we got. This amount of icing, if I was just dipping each one in, might make it through if I had a thin enough coat. If I did something like this on each one, it definitely would. But yeah, this is a great cookie recipe. Works really well. They don't expand too much, so generally if you do a nice job cutting it out, which I did on some of them and not so much on others, then your cookie will end up looking really nice. If you kind of did a crummy job cutting it out, this one got a little smushed on the bottom. Like, it's going to look like what you put it in the oven, which has its pros and cons for sure. But this is a great recipe, so I hope you enjoy.